Welcome back, microeconomists. Today we're going to talk about perfectly competitive firms. So this is one of our first market structures that we're going to look at. We're also going to look at monopolies, oligopolies throughout the semester. So there's different market structures across any economy. So if you look at a spectrum, on our far left, let's just say, we have our perfectly competitive firms, and our far right is monopolies. So these are two polar opposites. So on both of these sides, they have different characteristics, and in between, there's different market structures as well. In between these, between perfectly competitive firms and monopolies. So some of the main things that are different between these two are market power. So market power meaning how you can set your price, or the amount that you want to sell at, or how much quantity you want to produce. Also the level of competition. So how many firms are in this market? Do they have any say? So there's different characteristics for each. So it's important to know the different characteristics. We'll talk about those in a bit. And also product differentiation. So how does your product differ from firm to firm, or is it all just homogeneous, meaning all the same? So we're going to get started. So let's just assume there's 3 years after graduating, you want to run your own business, and you want to know what to produce, how much to produce, at what price, and how many workers to hire. So some of the factors that you should take into account is your cost. So we've looked at our marginal cost, average total cost, fixed costs. All these different types of costs are going to be implemented into this chapter. And then how much competition you face. Now it's important to know how much competition you face based on your market structure. So industrial organization is just looking at how your industry is organized, obviously, as well as making a judgment based on others' actions or different firms in your market. So we're going to first start by talking about perfectly competitive markets. So the characteristics. So perfectly competitive market has many buyers and sellers. So that's one of the key characteristics. There's a lot of buyers and sellers of this product. Second one is they're trading identical products. So it's homogeneous. They're selling the same exact product. There's no difference between company A and company B. So for example, let's just say we have 3 firms: Target, Trader Joe's, and Big Lots. All 3 firms sell bananas. Now in our example, we're going to assume that everyone sells the same exact product. All the bananas you buy from Trader Joe's or Target or Walmart, or in our case, Target, Trader Joe's, and Big Lots, they're all the same product. There's no difference. Now, realistically, that's not the case. Some firms might label their products as organic. They might get theirs from different places in the world. Now, there is differences. So again, this is why perfectly competitive firms is a extreme case. There is no perfectly competitive market out there in the world because everyone differentiates their product. But again, this is good to have a baseline to what markets could be based on these conditions. So we'll talk about price takers in a second. Okay, so firms can freely enter or exit the market. So this is another key assumption. This is basically saying there's no barriers to entry or exit, meaning you can leave this market, and you can also enter this market whenever. There's no huge startup cost. There's no licensing. There's no government mandate saying that you can't enter this market without special licenses or whatever it may be. So it's easy to set up shop and start selling your product. Now, on the other end, when we talk about monopolies, it's much harder to enter these markets. So for example, today you can't start up your own airline industry or your own airline company because, again, huge startup cost. You have to meet regulations, all these other additional steps, making it harder for you to enter this industry. Now, in this case, anyone can set up shop with a perfectly competitive market, and you can sell these products without any licensing, whatever it may be. It's much easier compared to a monopoly. Now, firms are price takers. What it means to be a price taker is they have no market power. They can't influence the price whatsoever. They take whatever the price that the market gives them, meaning price taker. When we look at monopolies, they'll be price makers. They get to set the price. Price takers, whatever the price the market has, that's what you're going to sell at. There's no incentive to sell at a higher price, no incentive to sell at a lower price. An example of this would be, again, we'll go back to, now we'll just use 2 firms. So Target and Trader Joe's. These are the only 2 firms, and they sell bananas. Now we're going to say the market price is 10 cents per banana. Now, if those are the only two firms in our market, and let's just say Trader Joe's sells their product for 20 cents, a lot of people or nobody's going to go purchase this product from them because one of our key assumptions is they're selling the exact same product. So who in their right mind is going to go wanting to go buy the same exact product, again, completely identical, for 10 cents more when you could get it for 10 cents less? So again, there's no incentive to sell at a price higher than that. Now, we can look at it the other way as well. There's no incentive to sell at a price below market price as well. So if our market price is 10 cents, there's no incentive for, let's just say, Target to sell their bananas for 5 cents because that's reducing their potential revenue. Again, we're assuming that they are profit maximizing firms. That's a key assumption. Our fifth assumption is perfect information. Everyone knows everything about the market. Again, this is another reason why this is not realistic, because no one has perfect information in real life, not the government, not every single firm, not the consumer. So we're assuming you have perfect information. You know how a product is produced completely, cost margins, all the essential things to know. So again, that's rarely the case in real life. All right, so a couple of formulas that we need to know is total revenue. So we've talked about this before. It's price times quantity. Average revenue, this is very similar to our average cost. So it's total revenue divided by quantity. Now, marginal revenue, this is similar to marginal cost, but we're looking at every additional unit of output that we produce, how much revenue do we generate? Now, it's important to know this because we want to know, we want to think at the margin. This is how we determine profit, an easier way to know how much we should be producing, how much profit we'll make because of this, and we'll talk about that in a bit. So for competitive firms, our average revenue is always going to equal price, and our marginal revenue is also always going to equal price. So here we have this table. You can go ahead and pause the video and complete this table, or you can just go along with it. So here we have all of our formulas, our total revenue, average revenue, and then our marginal revenue. So our total revenue is just going to be price times quantity, and from there we're going to calculate average revenue, and then we're going to calculate our marginal revenue. So in this case, we're our price takers. We take the price that's given by the market. The price is 10, so our average revenue is going to equal 10. Our marginal revenue is going to equal 10. That's an important concept to know, and that's only in a competitive firm. So a competitive firm can keep increasing its output without affecting the market price. So that's basically the only thing a firm can choose, is how much they produce. They can't change the price. Again, we established that already. So each 1 unit increase in quantity causes revenue to rise by P. So our marginal revenue is equal to P, which is our price. So marginal revenue equals price, and this is only true for perfectly competitive firms. So we'll have this on the board in a bit, and we'll talk about what this is. So sometimes you'll see marginal revenue equals P, which equals D. That means demand. So again, when we draw this in, it will be a completely horizontal curve. So if we go back to our example here, our price is 10. This is constant. Again, there's no incentive to sell at a price higher or lower, so it's going to be a completely horizontal curve when you draw in your marginal revenue curve. All right, profit maximization. At what quantity maximizes a firm's profit? Think at the margin. So this is where we want to include marginal revenue and marginal cost. Those are two key components of this chapter. So if quantity increases by 1 unit, we want to know how much revenue increases by marginal revenue, and how much revenue rises by MR, and then how much cost increases by producing 1 more unit as well. So if marginal revenue is greater than marginal cost, you can increase your quantity to raise your profit. Now, if marginal revenue is less than marginal cost, you want to decrease your quantity to raise your profit. Now, the key thing is this next note. You should have this circled, highlighted, whatever you need to do to understand this. You maximize. Let me move this real quick. Okay, so it's hard to see the video because my head's hovering over it, but to maximize profit, or to find the profit maximizing quantity, it's where marginal revenue equals marginal cost. Remember that. Marginal revenue equals marginal cost. That's where you maximize profit. If marginal revenue is greater than marginal cost, you can produce more to increase profit. If marginal revenue is less than marginal cost, you need to decrease your quantity to increase your profits. And we'll look at that graphically. So here we have our total cost, total revenue. Now again, these numbers are just given to you. You can calculate your profit. You have your marginal cost. Our marginal revenue is the same because our price is the same. We're assuming that the price is going to be 10. So we have calculated our profit and then our difference in profit for marginal revenue and marginal cost. And we see an output talking about at any quantity with marginal revenue greater than marginal cost. Again, we increase our quantity to raise our profits. At any quantity with marginal revenue is less than marginal cost, we want to decrease our quantity to increase our profit. So we're going to go over an actual example. So this is where we see our marginal revenue curve. Here, we're assuming that it's completely horizontal because our price stays constant. There's no incentive to sell at a higher or lower price. So we have marginal cost, marginal revenue. Now at quantity A specifically, give me 1 second. So at quantity A, if we compare these two different points, this point right here is higher than this point. This point up here at P1 is on our marginal revenue curve. This point right here is on our marginal cost curve. So our marginal revenue is greater than our marginal cost. So here, what this is saying is we should produce more in order to increase our profit. So we always want to be at this point right here, at the intersection of marginal revenue and marginal cost. That's your profit maximizing condition. Meaning at this point, this is where profit is maximized completely. So to the left of this, our marginal revenue is greater than our marginal cost. We can increase our production. So as we produce more, we'll be right here, we're set. Now, right here, this is our marginal cost, and this is our marginal revenue. Our marginal cost is above our marginal revenue, meaning that our costs are higher than our revenue. We need to scale back production. So as we produce less and less, we'll get back to this point right here. So again, our goal is to be at this quantity right here. This is our profit maximizing condition where MR or MC equals MR. All right, so up here, the rule is marginal revenue equals marginal cost at the profit maximizing condition. Now, if I were to increase the price, what would you think would happen? Basically, as we increase price, let's just say overall the market price changes. So the price would increase, meaning it would rise to P2. And now our profit maximizing condition and quantity has increased as well. So we see an increase in that. And that's going to be our new profit. So we'll look at how all these play a role in calculating profits, looking at average total cost in a bit. Okay, so this last portion, the marginal cost curve is the firm's supply curve. So this is how we treat it in terms of our examples. So our marginal revenue can be seen as our demand. Our marginal cost can be seen as the supply. So based off this, we do make some decisions on whether to shut down or exit. So these are two key things as well. Shut down versus exit, these are decisions made by the firm. So you can either leave or you can stay in this market. Now, a short-run decision is to not produce anything because of market conditions. Let's just say in a recession, you can't produce as much due to these different factors. So shutdown is a short-run decision. It's, again, short-term. Exit is a long-run decision to completely leave the market. Now, key difference between the two, if you shut down in the short run, you still have to pay your fixed costs. Shutdown is just temporary. This is saying, as of right now, we're not going to produce anything because, let's just say demand is down, people aren't purchasing our products, but you still have to pay fixed costs. This fixed cost could be, you still have to pay rent, you still have to pay utilities, whatever it may be. Now, in the long run, you can completely leave. So this is exiting the market. You're leaving this market to join a different market. If you exit in the long run, there's zero cost. Again, we're assuming that everything is variable in the long run. All right, short run decision to shut down. Should a firm shut down in the short run? Now, the cost of shutting down is the revenue that you lose. Again, if you're not open, you're not selling. If you're not selling, there's no revenue being generated. So the revenue loss is your total revenue. Now, the benefits of shutting down is your cost savings. So you're not paying that variable cost or that variable cost at that point in time. Now, the firm still has to pay your fixed cost no matter what. So you're going to shut down if your total revenue is less than your variable cost. So another way to see it is your price is less than your average variable cost. You're going to leave this market, or you're going to shut down temporarily. Again, there's different ways to look at it. For now, we're going to say we're going to shut down if our total revenue is less than our variable cost. So graphically, when the price is set or greater than our AVC, so these curves are from what we looked at last time. We have our ATC, we have our AVC, and we have our marginal cost curve. So ATC sits above AVC, MC intersects both of them. So if the price, again, our price in this case will be a horizontal line. If our price is above this portion, then the firm is going to produce at a quantity where price equals marginal cost at some point. Now, if price is set below, so this portion right here, if the price is set below, the firm's not going to produce anything, because the reason being is your costs are too high, you're not turning a profit. Basically, by you producing, you're losing out on money. So again, we're looking at opportunity cost. You much rather be making money as opposed to losing money. All right, so the firm's short run supply curve is a portion of your marginal cost curve above your AVC. So this portion, so from where the laser pointer is upwards, this is your short run. Make sure you remember that. That is your short run supply curve. Now, sunk costs, we've kind of talked about this. We're not going to take this into account for any of our calculations. In the short run, fixed costs are sunk costs. So fixed costs should not matter in the decision to shut down. Again, this is something you have to pay no matter what. Okay.